ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. In this 45th class on Mundaka Upanishad, we are going to enter the third mantra of the third Mundaka, Khanda number 2. In other words, 3.2.3. And this mantra and the next mantra are indeed very, very meaningful to seekers on the path. For spiritual seekers, especially for those who are at the middle level, and to an extent to those who are at the lower level, these mantras can provide a certain amount of motivation. We talk about Manda, Madhyama and Uttama Adhikaris. You may be disappointed to know that these two mantras, which are very beautiful and have a great amount of force in them, are not so much meant for Uttama Adhikaris. Uttama Adhikaris, the top-notch spiritual students, do not commit these big blunders, do not get trapped in the ways that are described in these two mantras. These two mantras, 3 and 4 of the second khanda of the third Mundaka, openly declare the pitfalls that Vedanta students face and fall into. By carefully avoiding these pitfalls, people can rise to the higher level of Uttama Adhikari. If you are already an Uttama Adhikari, you would be primarily interested in getting that finer and advanced clarity on the nature of Atman or the nature of Brahman. Uttama Adhikaris are very well equipped with the values which are elsewhere called sadhana chatushtaya. Viveka Vairagya Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti and Mumukshutva are called the sadhana chatushtaya, and if anyone has these fourfold inner qualities or inner qualifications, then one would not need to fix oneself. One need not set oneself right in ways that are described in these two mantras. But these two mantras appeal to a large number of people in the world because a large number of people who study Vedanta are not Uttama Adhikaris. A large number of people like Vedanta, they feel good about Vedanta, but either they are not aware at all how their daily life is not anchored in true spiritual pursuit, or sometimes they are dimly aware, but the vasanas are too strong. Their likes and dislikes, their conditionings, their colored perceptions, and, as we often use the words, their attachments and aversions. Without letting go of all those attachments, they want to go to the highest, but they can't. Therefore, these two mantras are meant for the majority of us. And let's see how exactly the mantras awaken us to what is required for success in the search for the highest truth. Adi Shankara connects us to the third mantra saying, Yadi evam sarvalabhat paramaha atmalabhaha. If coming to know the pure self is higher than any other achievement, any other acquisition that we can think of, if that is so, then tallabhaya pravachanadayaha upayaha bahulyena kartavyaha iti prapte idam uchyate. Someone may imagine, okay, I will just increase either giving discourses or listening to discourses. I will read more books, more texts. I will memorize more mantras. That is how the Madhyamadhikari thinks. The Madhyamadhikari doesn't suspect that before he embarks upon advanced study of Vedanta, he has to let go of the jealousy he has about his neighbor. He has to let go of some hatred, some revengefulness that he may be having in his bosom. He may be having some special attraction to wealth or pleasure. And this Madhyamadhikari doesn't realize that I need to examine my weaknesses, my shortcomings, and I need to be a person of integrity. Then all these more of discourses and more of listening, etc., will be meaningful. It doesn't become clear to him. Therefore, Shankaracharya connects us to the next mantra in a very fascinating manner. If anybody imagines pravachanadayaha bahulyena kartavyaha, we must attend more discourses or we must give more discourses, write books on Vedanta and so on, please, that will not take you to liberation. You may become more popular. Your books may sell well or they may not. And if they do sell well, yes, you will be received at more places by people who will call you a great scholar, and some may mistake you for an enlightened person also. But are you really enlightened? Shankaracharya says, it is not through pravachana that is said in the mantra itself. He says the mantra comes down on us for our narrow minded conception of what it takes to realize the self. In the third mantra, which is found in Kathopanishad also, Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo na medhaya na bahuna shrutena यमेवैष वृणुते तेन लभ्यः तस्यैष आत्मा विवृणुते तनुं स्वाम. Take the first quarter, the first line alone. Na ayam atma pravachanena labhyah. Nobody is saying don't listen to discourses. Nobody is saying don't give discourses. But drop this idea that simply listening to more and more discourses or going around giving discourses will take you to realization. Swami Chinmayanandaji used to make fun of people who would go on listening to him and apparently do not change actually the way they live. He would talk of them as professional listeners. They have as though become professional. Their profession is to go listen to discourses of all the Mahatmas who come to their town. That kind of mechanicalness, That kind of doing things as though it is the fashionable thing, as though it is the way to get some immediate comfort. We are using pravachans in that case as an escape. Study of Vedanta should not be an escape from boredom. It should not be a means to some respectability in the society. It should not be to make one's own conscience happy. Nowadays, I am very spiritual. You see, I attend 6 discourses in a week and so on. Don't try to fool yourself or fool anybody. Pravachana matrena, by simply giving some time to discourses, you will not realize the true Atma. Pravachans are helpful, but we have to be very vigilant about our psychological condition. As I gave the example, do we still nurse a wound? Do we still have a ill will towards somebody who might have insulted us, who might have truly done injustice to us? That is one side of the story. But if we continue to harbor some ill will against him or her or them, then that is an issue. Then pravachans do not take us far. Pravachans would be more window dressing. Pravachans would be sweeping the dust under the carpet. Nayamatma pravachanena labhyaha. Then comes somebody who says, Sir, I not only hear discourses, but I have memorized so many mantras. Ask me about any mantra from any Upanishad. Here I go. I will recite it in front of you without looking at a book. That is called Medha, ability to remember and bring out many mantras, sutras, and so on. That also cannot help you realize the self. For it's like you have an outer room where visitors come and that is decorated, that is kept clean. If any visitor for some reason goes inside your house, he is in for a shock. He sees that the other rooms in your house are not at all tidy. What a terrible situation it is. Likewise, if we are able to recite mantras, listen to discourses, give discourses, we have kept great books of wisdom in our library, and visitors to our house see our collection of books on spirituality and so on. All that is like the outside room is made beautiful, the whole house is not. Your public life might be decent. Is your private life decent too? In that spirit, this mantra is to be taken. Na bahuna shrutena, by a lot of shravana. Then what under the sun will bring to us self realization? The third quarter of the mantra spells it out. Yame vaisha vranute. If we seek the pure self, that is, knowledge of the pure self, exclusively, single pointedly, in such a way that we would say, I want that and that only. Eva has that meaning. Yam eva. Yam atmanam eva. Esha sadakaha vranute. Tena labhyaha. Tadrishena sadakena labhyaha. That kind of spiritual seeker would get it. Maybe by hardly giving any lectures, maybe by having heard just a few discourses here or there, maybe being able to remember just a few mantras and so on. Doesn't matter. That quantity, that frequency, etc., is not the issue, but there's a burning desire in this seeker to realize the self. That is yam eva vranute. Scholars of interfaith literature say how in Christianity, in the Bible, there is a saying, knock and the door shall open. Ask and ye shall be given, and such lines. So one has to knock, one has to ask. Here, one has to truly seek. Outwardly, we are seekers of God, but in our heart, we are, suppose, seekers of respectability. We carry an Upanishad book and go to the discourse by some eminent speaker, and part of the mind says, now the whole town will know what a religious person I am, and so on. Then that is not a case of seeking the truth with a certain intensity. Seeking the truth intensely is yam eva esha vranute tena labhyaha. If there is such single pointed seeking, then that Atma, in a manner of saying, shows itself in its true form to that seeker. Tanum swam. Tanu, sometimes body, but here it is the Swarupa. The Atma has a certain nature which has been elusive all this time. Somehow we could not get to know the true nature. That true nature, the Tanu of Atma, gets revealed. Atma Vivranute. Vivarana in Sanskrit means opening a door. Of course, it is used in the sense of elaboration, explanation. But in the first place, it is opening a door. In Kathopanishad, there is a line, Vivratam Sadma Nachiketaha. O Nachiketa, the door to immortality, the hall of Sadma is house, the house of immortality is open for you. Vivratam. And here you have Vivranute. Atma Vivranute. Atma opens up. Till then, Atma as though was hiding itself. This is a manner of saying there is no such Atma other than ourselves, which is going to reveal itself to us from over there. There is no Atma which is over there and is hiding till now. Atma is our own true nature, but in a manner of saying, personifying it and expressing it as though it is a little outside, it is said Atma shows its true nature to such a person. Maybe this is a bit influenced by the language of Bhakti Yoga. Dhruva, the little boy, sits in austerities, and Mahavishnu comes and gives him darshan. Mahavishnu is said to take his conch and softly touch the cheek of Dhruva. Dhruva opens his eyes. Behold, there is Mahavishnu in all splendor, right in front of the boy. So the language is of that nature here, but in the Vedanta, in the Jnana Yoga, the Atma becomes clear to that Antakarana. Shankara writes, Yoyam Atma Vyakhyataha, this pure self which has been commented on before, Yasya Labhaha Parapurushartaha, attaining which is the highest possible gain in human life, Na Asav Veda Shastra Adhyena Bahulyena Pravachanena Labhyaha. Na Ayam Labhyaha, that pure self is not ours if we are engaging merely. The merely is to be taken as implied. Otherwise, it's not a condemnation of pravachans. Don't go to pravachans is not the message here. But merely filling our schedule, weekly schedule with lot of pravachans is not going to help. Bahulya means a lot of Veda Shastra, Adhyena Bahulya. And na medhaya, Grantha Artha Dharana Shaktya. By our capacity to hold Dharana, Grantha Artha, various mantras of Upanishads or sutras of Brahma Sutras or shlokas of Bhagavad Gita or what is said in so many other Prakarana Granthas, if we are able to hold them in our memory, well, bhuktaye, natu muktaye, that would lead to better acceptance in the society, and there will be people who will patronize you, who will support you in your work, in your projects, in your building anything for society or for yourself. All that is not liberation. With all that big house you may build for yourself and inaugurate a large ashram in your name or in your association's name, you will be as miserable as before, if not more. So, na bahuna shrutena, nor even by shravana, lot of shravana. Then, kena tarhi labhyaha, in what way or by what? Kena means by what? By what? By what means can we gain this pure self knowledge? Uchyate, it's being said, Yameva Paramatmanameva. I want that Paramatma. I want to know that Supreme Self. Eva and nothing else, only that. Is in this way, Yesha Vidwan Vrunute Praptum Ichati wants to get the pure self, putting aside so many of his or her other desires, then Tena Varanena. Varana means choosing. In Kathopanishad, Nachiketa does that. Nanyam varam vranite Nachiketa. There is a sentence. Nachiketa does not budge, does not settle for any other boon. He wants self knowledge only. Likewise, here, Tena Varanena Yesha Paraha Atma Labhyaha Na Anyena Sadhanantarena. You may have so many other sadhanas. I do this japa, I do that pravachana, I do that writing, I do this editing, I do tirtha yatra, and so on. All of them are good. We are not condemning them per se. But have you cleansed your bosom of other longings in life? Along with seeking God, are you also longing to be invited by the king of the country in the olden days or powers that be in modern times? Are you dreaming of being a great scholar and giving a Vedanta lecture in some famed hall? I have heard there is some Royal Albert Hall in England. So you dream of standing on famous platforms. You dream of having celebrities as your disciples. Suppose such longings you have, then you are not seeking Brahmajnana with intensity. You want this also and that also. You want to have the cake and eat it too. You want to enjoy the dream but wake up also. That is not possible. Sadhana antara is the other means which are meant for other ends. Nityalabdha swabhavatvat kidrishosau vidushaha atmalabha iti. We hear at places that the Atma is ever attained. It is Nitya Siddha, Nitya Labdha, Nitya Shuddha. That is, really speaking, there is nothing like gaining the Atma. You already got it. You are the Atma. All this is said in the Vedantas. Nitya Labdha Swabhavatvat. Then why do we say Atma Labha? She gets this Atma who seeks it intensely. So we're talking of getting the Atma. Kidrishaha ayam Atmalabhaha Uchyate. All that happens is it's not actually getting the Atma, but it is said Tasya Esha Atma Avidya Sanchannam Swam Param Tanum Swatmatattvam Swarupam Vivranute Prakashayati. Adi Shankara gives an example in the next sentence. prakashe ghatadi iva. Prakashe iva ghatadi. You change the order. Prakashe, when you switch on the light, there was a pot before also in the room, but when light is on, you say, oh, here it is. You are so happy to discover. The pot did not come from anywhere. Likewise, vidyayam satyam. When there is right learning, when there is right understanding of the Upanishadic statements, when there is the true meaning of Tattvamasi or Prajnanam Brahma, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, or Ayamatma Brahma, all these great statements scattered across the Upanishads, when you study them properly under the guidance of a competent teacher, then there is right understanding. That is Vidya. Vidya is not Grantha Dharana Shakti, not memorizing many mantras or shlokas. Vidyayam Satyam, when there is right understanding, Prakashe Gatadihi Yatha Avirbhavati, the pot becomes evident. Like that, the pure self becomes evident. That is explained or expressed in a poetic language. The Atma, which has a certain nature, Tanu, Swatma Tattva, which was avidya sanchanna. The pot was covered by darkness, we say. Likewise, here the Atma, in a manner of saying, is covered by avidya. Though there is nothing like that, there is nothing called avidya, bhava rupa, which is like a blanket or something. Erroneous perception, erroneous seeing itself is avidya. You see erroneously, there is avidya. You see rightly, there is no avidya. There is nothing like some substance, gross or subtle, which is to be called avidya. So, swatmatattvam vivrunute prakashayati. Tasmat anyatyagena. What is the message finally? Anyatyagena. Like in Bhakti Shastra, in a sutra of Narada Bhakti Sutra, it is said, Anyashrayanam tyagaha. One just lets go of other forms of shelter. I shelter or I take Lord alone as my shelter. Lord alone is my refuge. If somebody else is seemingly giving me some shelter, it is the Lord who is doing so through that personality. We do not literally dismiss forms of help or support other than God. Rather, we say any support is coming from God. It is God, therefore, who is supporting me, who is keeping me alive, who is keeping me alive and kicking. So, Anyashrayanam Tyagaha is an expression in Narada Bhakti Sutra. And Sri Shankaracharya says, Anyatyagena. For heaven's sake, don't seek mere long life, mere scholarship, mere fame and name. Let them be at the most some kind of side products. If the side products come about, okay. If the side products do not come about, forget it. We are interested in our main product and we celebrate getting our main product. The side products are a side show which is less important, if not unimportant. Anyatyagena atma prarthana eva, seeking the pure self, that is wisdom of the pure self alone, is atma labha sadhanam. That is how we can proceed towards self realization. So, before going to the next mantra, let me tell you this third mantra, in fact, gave us some warnings. You don't fall for ravachanas. Don't fall for mechanical hearing. Don't fall for mere memorizing. Don't fall for mere show off of scriptural knowledge. That doesn't take you to freedom. Now, with a little stronger language, on which Adi Shankara's commentary also is stronger, the Upanishad says, if you are a weakling, you cannot get Brahman. So, should we be Dara Singh? Should we be some wrestler? Should we be some person who has muscle power? Upanishads do not talk about muscle power, nor are they against muscle power. So, what is this balam? Before that, Adi Shankara connects us to the fourth mantra. Atma prarthana sahaya bhutani etani cha sadhanani bala apramada tapamsi lingayuktani sannyasa sahitani. So, if the earlier mantra, after dismissing mere pravachana, mere shravana, and mere medha as the means to self realization, emphasized that single pointed seeking, this coming mantra also emphasizes certain genuine requirements. We need to have balam. Balam is strength. So, what kind of strength are we talking of here? We'll see. Apramada, being careful. Pramada is being careless. Apramada. And then tapaha, right knowledge, right understanding. And they ought to be with a intense spirit of renunciation. All scriptural knowledge with no renunciation falls flat, doesn't take us to our goal. So, three sadhanas combined with renunciation are being mentioned. So, take it either way. The fourth mantra, as I introduced it earlier, could be taken as three warnings, three plus one, so to say, four warnings against what we ought not to do, or they can be taken as emphasis on 3 plus 1 things to do, things to have. A, B, C, and D don't have them. X, Y, Z, W do have them. So let's see what it is that we must avoid, what it is that we must have, we must possess. Nayamatma balahinena labhyah न च प्रमादात् तपसो वापि अलिङ्गात् एतैरुपायैः यतते यस्तु विद्वान् तस्यैष आत्मा विशते ब्रह्मधाम. The first line itself is like a whiplash to a lot of Madhyamadhikaris. The Madhyamadhikaris, as we described them before, have a problem. They are goody-goody people. Everybody in their friend circle says about them, they're good people. He's a good lady. This is a good man. But what does that good man, good lady mean? What kind of goodness is that? Is it just appearing to be, a cultured person and some gestures here and there? Or is there certain extraordinary strength? Bala, Nayamatma Balahinena Labhya means it's not enough if you are good in the eyes of 10 people. Are you good in the eyes of God? Are you good in your own eyes, in your honest introspection? Or are you basking in the sunshine of people calling you a very good man, a very good lady, and so on? So, what is this Bala? The first line says, Balahinena Atma na labhyaha. It is not physical strength. Physical fitness is helpful, no doubt. But what is especially mentioned here is it's a certain courage certain honesty, certain ability to rise above varieties of negative emotions. It's a certain special power that you and I have at times, not to budge, not to bend, not to bow down before some temptation or some kind of materialistic force. As Tagore says, give me the strength never to disown the poor or bend my knees before insolent might. Give me the strength never to bend before insolent might. For in the world, we bend before people who have money, who have power, who are famous, who occupy some chair, who are in position. We bend, we bow down. During British India, various kings of different little kingdoms, they were kings in one sense. But if British rulers were to visit their city, they bend, they bow down. They have to, for that was the whole understanding. The British conquered the whole of India and allowed at every sansthanas, as they call, every little kingdom in Jaipur and in Mysore and in Baroda and in some other small and big. I think there were hundreds of such kingdoms in the British ruled India, and all those kings had to abide by the dictates of the Queen of England. And before even that, even when the British, in fact, the East India Company, was winning and conquering more and more on the Indian soil, let's say there was a kingdom where the king was not under British really, but he is surrounded by kingdoms which are already conquered by the British. And if a British officer says, I am visiting you for some talking over some matter, the king here is nervous. The king gets up, stands up as the British officer enters his court because the officer represents the other kingdom, maybe on a senior level. So, all this is a kind of self humiliation, but situation was such. If anybody were to have this bala that is born of spiritual strength, then that person would have the creativity. He may even walk away from the throne. He or she may say, I don't want this throne. I will just live in a little village. I don't have to be a king. That is a certain stairya. There were poets, there were singers who would say to kings and emperors, I will not sing in your court, for I have taken a vow. I will sing only before God, in temples, in front of a Devi, in front of a Deva. I sing, not before kings. And there are, I'm sure many of you have heard about some such singers who were threatened by kings. You better come to my court, and for my pleasure, you better sing, otherwise, I'll cut your tongue. And there have been singers who said, so be it, cut my tongue if you like, but I won't sing before you, who is an emperor for a few days and then is forgotten. I sing only before the emperor of all emperors, that is God. There have been such singers, such composers, such saintly figures. So that kind of bala, it is not some mad courage, thoughtlessly one goes about something. That is not of much value. It is born of certain deep spiritual conviction, and Adi Shankara is going to say, Atmanishta Janita Viryam. Balam Atra Kidrasham. What kind of strength are we talking about here? Atman Nishta Janita Viryam. It is a certain strength which is born out of staying as the pure self. If we look at ourselves as a personality, or this body, this mind, as a person with so much of net worth, which is way less than many others in the town, and therefore we feel low and miserable comparing ourselves with somebody who has 10 times wealth as we have. If we feel always inferior and are afraid of those richer people, that is lack of this bala. One should not measure oneself by one's wealth. One should not measure oneself even by just mere scholarship. One should not measure oneself by one's looks or one's color of skin or one's height or one's all those things. Is it easy? It requires a tremendous amount of spiritual clarity. If one is spiritually anchored, then poor or rich, accomplished or a common man, educated or uneducated, one lives in fearlessness. That is what the Upanishad is talking. Unless you have that bala, that balam or bala, that strength, you will be only repeating what texts have said. You will be translating, you will be editing, you will be giving discourses, you will be writing poems, but you will not realize the self. Nayam atma balahine nalabhya nacha pramadat. If you haven't said goodbye to your bad habits, time and again, even though 100 times you acknowledged, I should not be doing this, I should not be doing that, and again you do that once more for whatever reason. Knowingly you commit the error that you had committed and regretted in the past. That is pramada, error prone nature. And nacha tapasaha, all are. Balahinena is third case, pramadat, and tapasaha fifth case. Out of tapas, and tapas here means scriptural knowledge, jnana. And all this would be utterly failure, all the more a failure if they lack a spirit of renunciation. Linga, literally linga means a sign, S-I-G-N, sign. And the sign here is indicative of sannyasa. If there is no spirit of renunciation, sannyasa is the linga here. Without sannyasa, then atma na labhya. That doesn't mean householders have to go and take orange robes. It is nothing to do with orange robes, yellow robes, white robes, blue robes. It is nothing to do with shaving the head. You, being married, having children and grandchildren, can go to greater and greater depths of spiritual contemplation, and you can have sannyasa. Sannyasa is desirelessness. Sannyasa is inner purity. In Ramana Gita, Maharshi Ramana defines what is sannyasa. Sannyaso nirmalam jnanam. Ordinarily, our jnana is with a lot of impurities, with buts and ifs. But nirmalam jnanam is when you know you are the pure self, you, you just know it without putting some conditions. Nisargadatta was told by his guru, I am telling you, you are the pure self, you are not this body. And without taking orange robes, without putting away his Maharashtrian cap, without changing his dress, without even leaving his home where his wife and children were with him, Nisargadatta strongly held on to that understanding. I am not the body. I am pure consciousness. While he was doing everything, eating, drinking, sleeping, if he fell sick, went to the doctor, took medicines, and so on and so forth. There was a level on which he was like anybody else. But on a deeper level, there was sannyasa in him. He simply went by Guru's statement and let go of his attachment to the body. He took care of the body like somebody to whom something is entrusted. Somebody leaves his expensive car in your custody and goes 3 months to some other country, and you take care of that car. And when the friend comes back, you give the car back. Otherwise, you are occasionally getting it washed, taking out for a short drive, and so on. Like that, can we look at the body without clinging attachment? That is sannyasa. एतैरुपायैर् यतते यस्तु विद्वांस्तस्यैष आत्मा विशते ब्रह्मधाम. When one has bala, one has apramada, one has salinga tapas. The alinga especially connects to tapas, I must clarify. Salinga tapas is a means to the highest state. Alinga tapas, that is scriptural study, scriptural knowledge, jnanam, sannyasa rahitam, will not get you self-realization. So, etaihi upayaihi, with these three means, to repeat, balena, apramadena, and salingat tapasaha, then if a learned person strives for self-realization, then here it is said, again personifying Atma, figuratively, Atma enters the abode of Brahman. The Atma, which is presently under an illusory enclosure and therefore is limited, sheds that limitation, sheds that enclosure, and becomes infinite. That is expressed as entering the abode of Brahman. Ayam Atma balahinena balaprahinena, synonym, Atmanishta janita viryahinena nalabhyaha. All of us at times feel weak, feel lost, feel frustrated, feel unhappy, feel helpless, etc. This mantra gives a golden tip. You want to feel good, you want to feel strong, you want to feel that life is under control more than anything else. Begin to contemplate on the self, meditate on the self, and meditate on your true nature. Don't just talk about it and neglect it day after day. Meditate, and then you will come upon a certain understanding of who you are, and then you will be surprised at the courage that will emanate from you. In situations where in olden days you used to just yield, you used to just get frightened by some wealthy man and say, "Yeah, I will do it. Tomorrow morning I'll get it done for you." You are obliging some because he is rich, somebody is a member of parliament, somebody is etc. The same person that you were at one time now will say very much eye to eye. You will see at that man of power or that lady of wealth and say, "Madam, thank you for choosing me for that job, but I am not free this weekend. Hope you will find somebody else to do your job." That wealthy woman will be shocked. He never refused to me. I am such a wealthy woman, and how dare this man refuse me today? On all previous occasions, he had just said, "Oh, thy will be done. I am at your service, man," etc. So that bala, to say no where a no is required, to say yes where a yes is required, can come by redefining who you are in your own eyes. That is Atmanishta. Then secondly, na api laukika putra pashwadi vishayasanga nimittat pramadat. If someone is again and again committing an error, laukika, worldly factors, putra, you say that I had to tell a lie because my own son's promotion was at risk. Otherwise, I would not have told a lie. मेरे बेटे के लिए, for my son's sake, putra, pashu, my property, my animals, my cattle. Olden days, cattle were a great form of wealth. Somebody has 100 cows. So putra pashuvadi. So my daughter, my wife, my husband, my elder brother, my and therefore for his sake, for her sake, I had to compromise, you see, and so on. That is called pramada. Whereas one loves one's wife or husband, children, etc. But love is different, and compromising with human values is different. So one does not compromise with human values such as truth and non-violence, and without compromising with true human values, one does take care, sometimes better care, of one's family, etc., than otherwise. Because, as all of us know, when we compromise with the human values such as truth, eventually we become so weak, then we cannot help our own near and dear ones at all, because we have become weak in the process. So one has to very carefully understand, am I living a life of which I myself am happy, or am I compromising? Pramada is compromise. Pramadat atma na labhya. Then taposo vapi alingat. Linga rahitat. Once more I would say that alinga is an adjective to tapas, not bala or pramada. Bala or apramada. So tapaha atra jnanam. So tapaha, because the context is way higher than ordinary, we are talking of what makes realization possible. So we should not take some upavasa or some mauna, etc. as tapaha here. Tapaha is jnanam. One is doing what Shankaracharya calls in his Kenopanishad or Kathopanishad Bhāshya, Anushīlana. One studies Vedanta, one reflects on it, one remains engaged in savoring that message more and more. In that kind of jnana, suppose one is contemplating quite a lot on spiritual teachings, but one is attached to certain things in life. Like there was a Sethji in Bangalore who gave away his business to his children and to Himalayas, never to return, he said. And he did not come also, pretty much. But it is said about him that in the Himalayas, in Rishikesh or so, he would meditate by the bank of Ganga, putting a little mat. But below the mat, he would keep his passbooks and checkbooks, etc., of the bank. So that is called sannyasa rahityam. For he said, suppose all these things don't work out, then I must bank on my savings. So those days, older days, passbook and checkbook and maybe some cash in an envelope, they would be below the mat. Sitting on that, he would be meditating. We respect him, at least him, he did that. But the mantra and Shankara's commentary also talk about another leap. And when you are rising in sattva, you will get the insights how you may take that leap. It's possible, you will yourself find. Sannyasa rahita jnanat, tapaha atra jnanam, lingam atra sannyasah. Sannyasa rahita jnanat na labhyate. Etaihi upayehi. One is bala and bala pramada sannyasa jnanehi. I think there's a print mistake in my book. Bala and apramada. So dirgha, bala pramada. So bala apramada and sannyasa sahita jnana, these are the three with which one tries. Then yastu vidwan viveki. More than scholarship, vidwan here is viveki. Somebody who is able to distinguish between shreya and preya, between mere passing benefits and lasting value to the soul. Atmavit. So to do so, she or he has to have an idea of the pure self. Otherwise, they won't. Tasya vidushaha or tasyaha vidushyaha esha atma vishate samprivashati brahmadama. So I have already explained what is entering brahmadama. It is nothing but going from a state of being limited to a state of being unlimited. It's not literally going, but it is shedding, it is letting go of the sense of limitation. Thus, the two mantras are a wake up call for all of us who might be into spirituality for years, but if we have been stuck somewhere, if we have not been really forging ahead, if we are not breaking or walking through walls, as there is an expression, then the reason is we are compromising somewhere. We are just attached to words, pravachan, words, expressions, phrases, language. Our joy is in language, not in what is indicated. We enjoy a new phrase and a new idiom and a new metaphor and a new example, new wow. So if our joy is in language, pravachana and shravana many times slip into enjoyment in language, in oratory, and so on. Then we know this is where we were stuck. Therefore, while words, language is a tool, we should not insult it, but the same words, if we get attached to them, can be an obstacle. We must respect words. We must know the truth of the matter through words, but then let go of words and be with the truth. We must not be unduly beholden to words. We must not feel obliged to words. These words help me go up, I will never leave them. No, no, no. The words ask us to leave them. Yena tyajasi tatyaja. Abandon or let go of that, with whose help you let go of many other things. Shastra helps you let go of so many things. But at the right time, you got to let go of Shastra also. Do not remain in the deadly embrace of Shastras. When it is time to let go of the Shastras, don't let go too prematurely, that is not meant. So, ample guidance is given in these two mantras for sadhakas, majority of us who are actually madhyama adhikaris. We don't have that vivek or vairagya to say, I am an uttama adhikari, I have written 3 books on Upanishads, and so on. All that doesn't matter. Viveka vairagya, etc., are what make one uttama adhikari, not popularity or scholarship or being goody goody and so on. Om Namah Paramarashibhyo Namah Paramarashibhyah.